This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Let's put aside for a minute the 37-count criminal indictment against Donald Trump, indicted for the second time. The newest one just this past week down in Miami, related to Espionage Act, conspiracy, obstruction, witness tampering. Put aside for a minute the 34-count criminal indictment in state court in New York just 2 months ago against Donald Trump in May, related to business fraud and business record fraud on the Stormy Daniels cover-up and hush money affair. And let's focus on Fani Willis, Fulton County, Georgia prosecutor. Some people might be saying on this hot take, well, Popok, what's new? Why are we talking about it? Because there's been a new development. That's why. Fani Willis announced in April, just this past April, in letters that she sent to the Fulton County, Georgia sheriff and all people related to the administration of justice in downtown Atlanta, where she works, that she was looking to bring her indictment, bring her grand jury against Donald Trump and others, starting on 7/11, easy to remember, July 11th, and concluding on September 1, that she anticipated that there would be an indictment of unnamed people, but we know that means Donald Trump, somewhere in the second or third week of July or the first week in August. She asked the Fulton County Sheriff's Office to coordinate with local and federal police and law enforcement to make sure that the peace was kept in downtown Atlanta, at the State House, at the courthouse, and at the DA's office, which all sit across from each other. We know that happened in April, but now we have a new development. The Fulton County Sheriff, Pat Labatt, took it very seriously and decided to detail a group of deputy sheriffs from his office to go both to New York and just this past week to go to Miami to observe courtroom and courthouse area security measures successfully used in New York and now in Miami, so they could bring it back home to Fulton County, Atlanta. So Fani Willis and the people around her and these professionals around her are taking the potential indictment, the likely indictment of Donald Trump, maybe Mark Meadows, maybe Lindsey Graham, who's also involved, maybe Rudy Giuliani, and others, extremely seriously, as they should. They wouldn't be going through all of these measures and taking all of these measures and sending Fulton County sheriffs from Atlanta to New York and now Miami if this didn't involve Donald Trump and those at the highest level of the conspiracy, the apex predators of the conspiracy. And that just happened. In fact, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office posted on its own Twitter feed, we'll put it up here, an announcement that in light of the fact that the Fulton County prosecutor has announced that sometime in the summer, and we know that's starting July 11th through 9/1 through September 1, and the tweet goes on to say we know that the Fulton County District Attorney is looking into the criminal investigation into the attempts to interfere with the administration of the 2020 Georgia general election. And based on that, the press release says they have decided to send people from the office, law enforcement, to both New York and Miami. The good news is they would have observed a very, very well-run operation in both New York and in Miami. There was very little, if any, disturbance or disruption in New York. There was a handful of people with tambourines or whatever in a small park near the federal courthouse in downtown or lower Manhattan. But really the same thing in Miami. Put aside the split screen images that Donald Trump wanted you to see of him going to a local Cuban bakery and restaurant for a celebration of his birthday coming out of the courthouse. But on the streets of downtown Miami, where the federal courthouse is located, the Wilkie Ferguson Courthouse, there was very few people on the street, a couple hundred, maybe, tops, in a city that's got, 5 million, across the Tri-County area. So, this was not a big, show of force to support, their president, Donald Trump. But the Fulton County Sheriff's Office got to see the federal response, how the federal marshals were handling the surrounding area, how the local and county police and sheriffs in Miami were handling the local area. They even got to observe how elected officials and others handled the response. Mayor Suarez, who apparently has now announced that he's running for president, having been the short-term mayor of Miami. They got to see how that worked. So this, again, for me on this hot take, is the strongest indication that the indictments that Fani Willis will be obtaining from the grand jury ultimately, starting in mid-July through the end of July, beginning of August, have to involve Donald Trump. Which means very, very soon on the MeidasTouch network, we're going to talk about and analyze how Donald Trump continues to run as at least 3, if not 4-time indicted, criminally indicted, both state and federal candidate. How does he do that? We got how he ran as a twice impeached, but now twice impeached, 3 or 4-time indicted, with major trials coming up on his calendar and on our calendar. Right now, there's an October of this coming, a fall October, huge civil fraud case, which could bankrupt Donald Trump, brought by the Attorney General of the state of New York in state court there. That's in October. In March, it's already been announced that there's going to be a state court trial of Donald Trump in the Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up trial, criminal trial. Now, that could move. That could move if Jack Smith's trial, which will likely take precedence in Mar-a-Lago, gets set for, let's say, first or second quarter of 2024, which could happen. It could go that quickly. It'll probably bump the other cases. They'll stand down as often do, and the federal government has supremacy in that area, and they can Bigfoot the state court judges and jump to the front of the line. It's like a speed pass at Disney. Federal Department of Justice prosecutors, they go right to the front of Splash Mountain, and that'll be the Trump prosecution. And if they indict him again, which is likely on the Jack Smith side for all things Jan 6th, including his role in the insurrection, the leader of the insurrection, and the interference with the election and all of that, that again will go to the front of the line. Fani Willis, it's like there is no Department of Justice or Justice air traffic controller who can place all these planes in the appropriate place for takeoff. So it'll be, the 2 or 3 Jack Smith planes get brought to the front. Okay. They're cleared for takeoff first. Fani Willis and the New York prosecutions will slide behind them. And, he's going to be able to argue, I can't go to criminal trial in that month, Your Honor. I just checked my calendar, and I'm already in a criminal trial in another location. I mean, this is what the jurists, the judges, and the prosecutors and defense attorneys are going to have to deal with because of this, the criminality of this person. Fitting in all of these trials before primary season or during primary season, it's not impossible. And at least 2, I would predict, if not more, are going to go to trial before he's running in a general election as the likely, I can't even believe I'm saying this, the likely Republican nominee. P.S. to Republican friends of mine, this is the best you can do. I mean, I know people like to attack Joe Biden, who's been in the public eye and a public servant for 50 years because he's, this anti-ageism thing, because he's 80. Okay. And which used to mean against a guy like Donald Trump, it means seniority, it means leadership, it means experience. All right, say what you want about that, but this is the best you got? A 3-time indicted, potentially convicted, twice impeached, a judge sex abuser? That is what the Republican Party has to offer the American people. That's just a little side color commentary. It's not really the focus of my hot take, but I wanted to throw it in there because the more I rattle off Donald Trump's unique hall of shame statistics, it's hard to believe I also have to say he's the leading candidate of the Republican Party. That's where we're at with the Fani Willis and Fulton County Pat Labatt sheriff announcement that they have sent for surveillance purposes to Miami people so that we don't have on the streets of Atlanta what could happen and what did happen on Jan 6th. That's what they're all worried about. That is the nightmare. That's what keeps the prosecutors up at night, is that something tips over, not by accident, but by design, by Donald Trump, MAGA, Carrie Lake, Jim Jordan, the right-wing MAGA in Congress, who continue, despite having lived through Jan 6 and watched it, the carnage, are trying to do it all over again. And that's what keeps these prosecutors and law enforcement up at night. Another Jan 6th, right? It just happened. It's not something like in ancient history books. Like everybody alive today, including kids, remember Jan 6th, all right? And so that's what they're doing. I'm bringing it to you here on this hot take so that you know another data point that indicates the indictment, again, of Donald Trump, this time in Atlanta, Georgia, and we'll continue to follow it all the way through July, August, and September as those indictments come out only on the MeidasTouch network. I'm a practicing national trial lawyer. I practice in courts just like the ones we're talking about. I co-anchor a podcast on the MeidasTouch network where we talk about things just like this with my co-anchors Karen Friedman-Agnifilo and Ben Meiselas on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. And you can give me a thumbs up here. Helps with the logarithm. Helps with the algorithm. You can tell this is unscripted, and helps keep the quantity and quality of things coming to you. You can follow me, Michael Popok, for news, analysis, and information, and an occasional laugh and mistake on all things social media at MS Popok. This is Michael Popok reporting.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.